say it. And then that's one of the aliens I think I'm dealing with, the tall whites. Maybe that's why they're so humane. But I've also been dealing with the small grays because I've seen the one of them. So these are regressed, vivid dreams that come back to me. And the first thing when I wake up, I guess what you don't do, you don't want to fantasize about things. You don't want to create things. What you want to do is go from your gut. What did you just see? What did you feel? And I asked myself that, and I said, wow, I saw something that I regressed from an earlier abduction. And there was another attempt at an abduction, and I kind of pushed it away. Dr. Jacobs told me, he said, you're not fighting it off. They're bringing you back when you feel that. And then I was stunned again. I thought they were done with me. They brought me back. That's why the electrical charge. So that's what he told me anyway, that electrical charge is when they bring you back. You wasn't fighting off anything because you're not going to fight them off, he said. So it was a very rewarding conversation I had with him in just a short time. But also I found myself, another vivid dream, I found myself on another planet with two suns. And I was younger. This must have been when I was first abducted. And they give me this I went to this planet with two suns. And there was some younger people like me. And they was playing music, and I'm a musician, and I was kind of playing music. I went outside, and I sat by a young girl that was in this lot, and it was kind of it was pine trees. It was kind of like damp, kind of like maybe like Washington State, just like where you're at. I kind of remember it looking like that. I've been to Seattle and those places, but it kind of reminded me of that, kind of damp with the trees and everything. And I asked this young girl, I said, you believe in God? And that's a funny question to ask in a dream. So I asked her, and she looked at me, and she looked around at this guy. I guess you can say I saw a man in black in this regressed dream, because a tall guy dressed in black, he motioned for me to come up to him. So I walked up to him. He said, it's time for you to go. And so he made me walk this plank. It looked wood to me. It wasn't metal. I walked the plank, and then I guess I come back. They say if you have a dream or a vivid dream of seeing two suns on a planet, then you've actually seen something, or that's kind of not natural to see. But so these were part of some of the regressed dreams that I've had from some of these abductions. So they have left me with little tidbits in which really encourage me to find out more and more and more. Why can't I regress everything? I wish I could. I went to tell you a quick story about. They told me go to a hypnosis. I said, okay, I will. So I went to one. She was experienced. She was an older gal, and she's had a lot of experience with hypnotizing. I sat there on the couch. She told me to lay back, and she started asking me about these things that I've seen. And she says, could you tell me? And I told her, I said, I can't. I hear the hum. You've heard of the Tao's hum? I have that hum also.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, it was getting really loud, and I couldn't hear her, and I kind of sat up, and I called out her name. She was under. She went under her own hypnosis. I had to shake her to wake her up, and she woke up. She said, oh, my God. She said, that's that big ship you saw. That's when the end of the world comes and the rapture is there. And I said, that's what you saw? So I hypnotized her. I don't know how that happened, but that's it's weird. So maybe they have energy that they instill in me. Another thing too, when I go to airports, I got so many little things. I'm trying to just dump them off here because I know we're running up on time here. But when I went to airports to go overseas, and the first time this happened to me, when I was in Alaska, my wife and I was in Fairbanks for a couple of years. A couple of little things happened there too, not too much. But I went through this where you hold your arms up and this machine goes around you for security checks, and you go through the line. Well, when I come out, my wife says, come on, baby, let's go. And the guy grabbed me by the arm, and it almost hurt my arm. And he said, you're not going nowhere. I said, what are you talking about? He says, look, there's a body figure on this machine. it had 5 yellow spots on it, big spots. And he says, "You're not going anywhere." I said, "What are those?" He said, "I don't know." But he said, "We're going to have to check you over." So they did a swipe on my hands for powder and residue. They checked me all over. They wand me. They patted me down. Then they give me a little red card to take up to the desk when I got to board the plane. I thought that red card was to kind of give them a heads up that this guy is kind of weird. There's something going on. So, and then it happened in Seattle, I guess the following year or two, because we went back and forth to the Philippines a couple of times. And when I went through the Seattle one, the same thing happened. I got out of that machine, and I stood there, and I looked at the guy and said, "Don't tell me." He said, "Yeah, what do you mean?" He said, "Yeah, you got yellow spots up there." I said, "What does it mean?" "I don't know." They didn't know what those spots meant.
Well,
was I energized?
I don't know. Dave, I want to tell you my little story here, since you brought that up. Now, remember I told you what happened in the mid-'70s in the desert of New Mexico, the bright light, and I got out of the car. Okay, I didn't think really. Well, my wife and we were a little upset. We were looking up in the sky for UFOs. I'll be honest with you. But then later, that night we were laughing about it. Didn't think anything of it. Got divorced, got married, got divorced. Now I've been married 40, going on 42 years. Now, one of my sons here back a few years ago got in trouble where I had to take him to court once a month for his court session for a year. Now, something really strange was happening, that every time I would go in through their, metal detector, it would go off. So they would have me take my belt off, and basically everything except my pants and shirt. It was going off, to the point they one time had me go in that special room where they put that latex glove on. Seriously.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And this went on for a year every time I went there. Now, I'm losing weight now, so I don't feel so bad, but I was fat then. You ever take a belt off when you're wearing jeans or whatever you're wearing, you take a belt off, you're lucky your pants don't fall down. Well, one time it did in front of about 100 people. Good laugh. But, okay, a few years later, I'm having some medical problems where I go to the doctor. They do x-rays and they go through where they put you in that machine. It sounds like a hammer, a CAT scan or whatever that is. Well, anyway, I go back to the doctor and I walk into the office and the head nurse comes up to me and goes, "Gary, where did you get that metal in the upper part of your back?" I go, "What?" "Well, in the x-rays, it shows a little piece of metal embedded up in your spine." Hey, I was in the military. I had my tailbone, they had to put it all back together, but nothing. I had no wounds or anything up in the upper part of my back. Guarantee it. No scars. I go in there and see the surgeon. The first thing he goes, "Well, you got a piece of metal in your upper part of next to your spine." And I said, "Well, I don't know how it got there." And he goes, "Well, I don't see any scars." And the first thing I said, "Well, can you remove it?" And he goes, "I can't because it's embedded. If I go in there and surgically try to remove it, you're going to be in a wheelchair." I didn't really think about that, after I had Timothy Collin on my show and we were talking about his implant. I'm just wondering back myself in the 70s when I saw that bright light and I thought it was only a split second. Something must have happened because I can honestly tell you, I have nothing could have ever happened where I could have metal embedded next to my spine in the upper part of my back.
Yes.
And
that wasn't near the Trinity site there in New Mexico, was it?
I don't remember. I really don't. That was in the mid-'70s. We drove. I quit my job where I was working at. We had enough money to go straight home. I'm talking about I lived on Nodos for 3 days and drove nonstop from North Carolina, New Bern, North Carolina, all the way back to Seattle. And,
wow.
I was a zombie by the time I got back. But again, I didn't.
You beat me.
Well,
you beat me. I drove 38 straight hours. You beat me.
Yeah, well, I got home and according to, I laid up at my mom's house. She said I was in bed for 2 days and didn't wake up. But it makes me wonder how many people are walking around that has implants in them and don't even realize it. I don't know if I have implant, but all I remember is my experience in that desert that bright light, and then going through. I can't even go on an airplane. Every time I have to go on an airplane, they take me in a special room. I can't get aboard. I don't fly anymore because, it's embarrassing. You get taken in that special room, right? And where they ask you all these questions, then they ask you to take your clothes off.
Yeah. Well, I've got titanium in my back, and they don't pick that up. And I told this guy, I said, maybe it's the titanium you're picking up in my back surgeries. And he goes, no, it's not in your back. It's everywhere else. So that was kind of confusing a little bit. Yeah, I know what you mean about that kind of stuff, and I'm always afraid to go to that one test. Now, when they wand me, I can pass, or if I walk through the metal detector, I'm okay. But if I walk in through that one device that goes around and around and tests everything, I guess that's where I fail it every time. So yeah, but I guess I'll get to have time to get into this.
Well,
Japanese
we still got a half an hour.
Okay. All right. I don't want to overtalk your show here, but I'm getting going now. I'm catching my rhythm, I guess you could say. But I guess you got to have a little bit of sense of humor in all this, because if I sat around and worried about everything that happened to me, it would bother me. So what I try to do is just take it, calculate it, just one step at a time. But here's the big story that I found. This was October 4th, 2010. I went to Sedona. I traveled, like we were talking a while ago, I traveled about 28 straight hours. I went and laid down for a couple hours and got a good rest, got back up and went to the shops in Sedona, and they said they saw a UFO around Cathedral Mount. I don't know if you know Sedona that well, but
a little
Cathedral
bit.
Mount, it's a butte. And so I go up there. I pull in the parking lot. I get out of my car. I start filming Cathedral Rock, and here comes a small white car right almost behind me. She pulls up, gets out of her car. She comes up to me like a little puppy. She looked like a young Japanese lady in her early 30s, and she had jeans and an old sweater on, a light sweater. And she walked up to me, and I said, are you going hiking? You waiting for somebody? She goes, no. I said, are you going, because it's going to rain. I said, it's starting to rain now. I said, you want to get in my car and we can talk a little bit? And here I was, an older guy, and here she was a younger gal. She gets in my car, we talk, and I said, are you afraid to being with me? And she goes, no. I said, so you can whip my butt, huh? She goes, yes. And I said, oh, wow. I said, this is scary. So she started talking some crazy stuff. She was actually eliciting, she's trying to get me to come out with feelings. They try to find out how humans have their feelings and their, I guess, I don't know, they try to get all the emotions. They're extracting emotions from you, I guess, so they can learn how to be good humans on Earth. Well, she started crying a little bit because she said her mom and dad, I touched her hand. I just put my hand on hers. And her hand was so hot, I couldn't hold on to it. I pulled off. I looked at her and said, are you okay? And she looked at me with these glaring dark eyes that pierced right through me. And I couldn't look at her too long. And I said, your body is extremely hot. So she goes, yeah, I'm okay. And here pulls up a car next to me, a guy that looks like some, I guess, law enforcement or something. He was a young guy with a burr haircut, and he had a headphone on. He didn't look around at me or us at any time, and I kept watching him. I looked at her, and she kept looking at me. And I think they travel in threes, from what I heard. They have a sponsor. That's a human here on Earth that works with them. They have security, and I think this was a security guy that was following her with me, and she was trying to learn the ins and outs of being a human emotionally, because she put on this fake cry, and we talked for a little while, and I said, how old are you? And then she yelled at me. She says, why is everything age? She said, there is no age.